like I said, I don't think we're going to spend a ton of time on all these because we have a lot to cover, but just little tidbits here and there. Let's move on to another center back signing, this time in Colorado. They have inked former Crystal Palace, Sheffield United, and Arsenal. Get it? It's a meme because Arsenal, but we replaced the ul with LOL because they're so funny. Rob Holding. He has agreed to a deal on a free transfer, coming as the Awazium replacement, most likely. 29 years old, hasn't really featured a ton since 2021 season, hasn't broken 1,000 minutes in the regular season for any of his clubs since that 2021 season. What are your thoughts on the move? And what are your thoughts? Yeah, let's just go that. What are your thoughts on the move for Colorado and MLS as a whole?
I can't wait for the comments later on when this pans out. But if I had to sum up the move, I would say I'm not a fan of this one. You're talking about a guy that's played more than 1,000 minutes in the league twice in his whole career, and both times, sorry, one time was in the championship, one time was in the Premier League. And the one year that he got time in the Premier League, Arsenal finished eighth in the league. Not exactly indicative of him performing necessarily well, at least for Arsenal standards. I'm not a fan of this one. I think you're taking a guy in that's in bad form or really no form at all. I to me that almost feels like championship teams didn't even want him then. I don't necessarily disagree that Colorado needed center back help. They're kind of middle of the pack defensively in terms of, how they've been. They definitely needed a bit more depth at center back, considering if you took away Noah Cobb and Rob Holding, all they have is Maxo and Ian Murphy. So I understand it. I just am not a big fan of bringing in Rob Holding. I never thought he was really anything good in the Prem. It's a free, so it's hard to be too pessimistic on it, but I'm not a huge fan of that move.
I disagree to a degree. So I get the idea behind not being thrilled with his minutes. He did miss a ton of, he had an ankle surgery that's made him miss. I'm just looking at this now because I knew he was injured for a bit. He had an ankle surgery that caused him to miss 535 days and counting. He's still recovering from it. So that's one of the things that kind of gives me this little don't know about it. He also had a ACL in 2019 and another injury in 2020. So the problem with this move is you're not sure he's actually going to be on the field for you, right? That's the issue. But again, playing the life's perfect and everything's great card, I would say that this is not a bad move for Colorado, but it should be the way that MLS needs to move in terms of profile of signing, taking away the injury, right? So we talked about a lot what MLS 4.0 should look like. Teams need to hold on to players so that they can win, right? Versus a quick paycheck. We talked about that last week. Teams need to get players that are more in their prime so they can compete at the highest level. And they also need to improve their level of defending, right? A lot of people give MLS, shtick for their poor defending, and it's not great. Now, it's not as bad as other people say it is, but it's not great. It can definitely take a step forward. And I think if Holding is healthy and can get back to the form that made him a Premier League defender, he gives you that, right? In terms of what Colorado does, they're on the fringe of the playoffs. They're 2 points from safety, but they've conceded 40 goals. The only other team in the playoff picture right now that's conceded more is the team underneath them, which I think is San Jose at 45. Somebody can correct me if I'm wrong there. If they can just cut down on the number of goals for this last 8 games or whatever, that might be enough to get them not even just in the play-in game, but up above to the playoff game. Now, I don't know if he's even going to play this year because of that recovery and injury rehab and such. I'm looking now. He's yet to feature. So, my guess is you don't see him this year. It's a next year thing. But long term, I think it's a good move again. So if they can get him on the field and he helps out great this year, awesome. But I think it's more of a long term thing if he's healthy.
Try to say something about a negative, try to say something negative about a transfer. Impossible challenge for Andrew. Never heard, unless it's a Rebel transfer, I've never heard you say anything bad about a transfer ever.
Let's go back to our transfer preview from this season and see how many D's and F's I gave and how many C's you gave. Yeah, that's what I thought.
D's and F. I went through the PowerPoint from last year. You didn't give anything below a C minus.
That's not true. That's literally not true.
Apparently everybody's a star.
That's not true. listen, you are just looking on things to hate because you are in a position where your team stinks and you want everybody else to come down with you.
That's not how it is. I am just very skeptical of what he's going to be able to bring to the table for them. And when we talk about in prime signings, he's not the guy that I would think of. I think of guys like Kuipers and Musa who are like performing and in their prime and are maybe just undervalued or underutilized, but he can't even get on the field.
No, no, and like I said, this is my thought is if he is able to get in there. 29 year olds as a center back, you got 10 years left in your career. Easy. Maybe 8 or 9. But
Not with
you
this injury history.
fair, very fair. But what I'm saying is, and that's what I tried to preface this before. I said, as a profile, take away the injury, a profile in terms of age and level of experience, that's what we should be looking for. I'm not necessarily saying we need to go and get everybody who's had, you know, 2 years out from ankle surgery and we need to, turn them up and turn them into the next greatest thing. What I'm saying is if we start looking at more 28, 29 year olds from Europe and South America who have decent experience at a high level that can then come in and be a staple of our team for 3 or 4 years, right? Before we move them on, or they become longevity for us for the rest of their career. Great. That's what we should be doing, not taking, and I'm going to use this just because it's the most recent one, but like not taking a Chiellini for 2 years, who is still fantastic, but taking him for 2 years and then rotating him out for the next, college kid who's not ready to play is what I'm saying.
Time will tell.
Time will tell. Well,